Okay, this is going to be study guide number 1 by Nick Jusome. It's going to be the upper arm and it's going to be the arm and the arm girdle. Alright, and what I'm going to do for this is I'm going to go through and name each section, obviously, and then name the markings and the individual bones on each of them. Alright, and then after that I'm going to just point to each structure silently, so that maybe you could use that as a way to study for it. Alright? Just know this is not scripted, so I will pause and I will probably say a lot. And if you hear lengthy pauses, it's because I'm looking at my book to make sure that I don't misinform you. Alright? So we're going to go through the scapula, which is right here, the clavicle, the upper arm or the humerus, the ulna, the radius, and the hand. Alright? So let me put these all to the side. And we're going to focus on the scapula right now, alright? Now, the thing about the scapula is it looks like there's a lot on there. And if you remember, what's up towards the head is superior, and what's towards the feet is inferior. So all the stuff on top is superior, so it's towards the head. So this is the right way up as I'm holding it right now. It kind of looks like a shark's tooth. Okay? This is the inferior part, and it points towards the feet too. It's like an arrow pointing towards the feet. Also, if you remember that this part attaches to the arm, then you'll know it's the right shoulder blade, as this is deep or the inside, and this is the outside. Okay? Alright, so now we'll begin with it. So, superior up here, inferior down here. So this is the superior angle right here. This point right here is the superior angle, which is attached to the superior border. Okay? Opposite that, the arrow pointing down, is the inferior angle. Okay? Looks the same on both sides, but I'll flip this every now and then, just so you can see it from multiple angles. Alright? Okay. So now we have the glenoid fossa, which again attaches to the arm. It's right here, this circle right here. It's this area in the middle of it. Okay? And then we have the auxiliary border. Now, if you remember that this is the right shoulder blade, which means your arm's going out this way, alright, that means your armpit's right here, and usually references to the armpit or the inner arm, medial to the body, is auxiliary. So as long as you remember that, this right here is the auxiliary border. It's also known as the lateral border because it's further from the middle of the body. Alright? So auxiliary, lateral border. Opposite of that, the medial or vertebral border. As long as you remember that this is towards the middle of the body, this is the vertebrae, so vertebral. Alright? Medial border. Okay. So now I'll go on to the spine, which is this part that juts out right here. Okay? And the spine that juts out right here leads up to the acromion. And one of the hard things to do, I know I'm covering it with my hands, I keep doing that, I'm going to try to avoid doing that. The acromion right here, one of the hard things I find people to have is identifying the acromion from the coracoid process. Okay? The acromion starts with A, the coracoid starts with C. Acromion is superior, and the coracoid process is inferior. So you have A before C in the alphabet, A is on top, C is on bottom. Alright? That's how I remember. You can also see it from this angle. Okay. So acromion is attached to the spine. Alright? Coracoid process is kind of attached to the superior border here, which also is leads us to our next part, which is the suprascapular notch, which is right there. This is the coracoid. I know it looks closer now that I put it closer. This is the suprascapular notch. It leads from the superior border to the coracoid process. So suprascapular notch. Alright. So now we have the spinoglenoid notch, which is near the acromion. Alright. That's this right here, this area. Alright. And the spinoglenoid is kind of rightfully named as the glenoid's right here and the spine's right here. So in between the spine and the glenoid is the spinoglenoid notch. Alright. Now we have the infraspinous fossa, which is right here. The area on the back of the spine. The biggest flat part on the back of the spine, which is right here. Infraspinous fossa. Okay. And infra below, so we have supra on top. Supraspinous fossa is on top here, okay? This area right here, you can stick your fingers in there. Alright, so infra, supraspinous fossa, okay? And then we have the subspinous fossa, which is on the inside or deep from the previous two fossas, alright? Because it's inside the body, alright? Okay. And I believe that covers the scapula. Okay, we'll come back to that later. Put that off to the side. And we'll go to the clavicle. Grab the wrong bone. We'll go to the clavicle, which is the smallest bone for the arm and upper girdle. The clavicle, one thing people have issues with is identifying which end goes to the shoulder blade and which end goes to the sternum. Well, how I remember is that the sternum's kind of flat. Not the sternum. The scapula is kind of flat. So the flat part leads to the scapula. Alright? So flat scapula, flat part of the clavicle. The notch part leads to the sternum. Okay? Which is the middle of the ribs. Alright? The only thing we have to know right now at this point on this is the conoid. The conoid tubercle, okay, which is on the flat end, which is this end right here. Alright? And it's that point right there. Okay? Conoid. Conoid tubercle. Okay? And that's it for the clavicle. Like I said, I'll probably point to that later. So now we have the humerus. Now, one of my study tips that I'll put on the humerus is that this is the right humerus, the one I'm using right now. We may be identifying the left or the right, which means that this part attaches to the scapula, where the glenoid fossa was, okay? This is the head of the humerus, and we'll get back to that. How you can tell from the other end is your elbow angles in, like mine is right now. Your elbow angles in. So if this angles this way, this is the back of your elbow right here, where my fingers going back and forth. This is the inside of your elbow, okay? Alright. So now let's go back to the head of the humerus. The head of the humerus, this part right here, the round end, is divided by the anatomical neck, which goes around this kind of cranial area that looks like the cranium. It's the top of the head. Alright, it kind of goes around that. It's a smooth area right here. I know I said cranial and stuff. I use my own descriptions. So, and then you have the surgical neck, which goes around the entire head, not just the half where the anatomical is, okay? So the surgical head goes all the way around. Alright? And then we have the greater and lesser tubercle, which the anatomical neck kind of separates this huge area that's nice and smooth, and these bumps. There's two bumps, even though there kind of looks like there's three, there's two bumps because these two are connected. This one's separate. So this is the greater of the two.